This is your sign from God. Don't skip this moment, because there is a reason your eyes stopped here, a reason your heart feels pulled toward these words right now. And even if you think it's случай, even if you believe this is just another video, another message, another moment scrolling past your screen, deep inside you already know it feels different, because your spirit recognizes when something is meant for you. And lately you've been searching for answers, searching for peace, searching for clarity about your future, your purpose, your life. And maybe you haven't said it out loud to anyone. Maybe you've kept it hidden behind smiles and distractions. But there's been a heaviness inside you, a quiet exhaustion from trying to hold everything together while feeling like nothing around you is changing. And that's exactly why this message found you today. Because God sees what nobody else sees. He sees the battles in your mind, the fear you hide behind confidence, the nights you stay awake overthinking everything, wondering if things will ever get better, wondering if your prayers are even being heard. And I need you to hear this clearly right now. They are. Every single one of them. Even the prayers you couldn't put into words. Even the tears you cried silently when nobody was around. God saw it all. And the reason He brought you here is to remind you that your story is not over. Your breakthrough is not impossible. And the pain you're feeling right now is not permanent. Because what feels like delay to you is often preparation in ways you cannot yet understand. And sometimes God will allow you to feel uncomfortable because comfort keeps you stuck. Comfort keeps you in places that no longer match the future He's trying to lead you toward. And I know change feels scary. I know uncertainty makes you anxious. But what if the thing you're most afraid of is actually the thing that will change your life forever? What if the closed doors, the disappointments, the setbacks, the people who walked away, were all part of redirecting you towards something greater than what you were settling for? Because not every loss is punishment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is God removing what can no longer go with you into the next season of your life. And right now you are standing at the edge of that new season, even if you can't fully see it yet. And that's why you cannot give up now. That's why you cannot let fear convince you to stay where you are. Because the life waiting for you on the other side of this season is greater than anything you've experienced before. But first, you have to trust God enough to keep moving, even when you don't have all the answers, even when nothing makes sense yet. Because faith is not about seeing the whole staircase. It's about taking the next step anyway, believing that God is already ahead of you, making a way where you currently see none. And one day, you will look back at this exact moment and realize that this message was not случай at all. It was the beginning of everything changing. You've been asking God for a sign, asking Him to show you whether you're on the right path, whether your waiting will finally end, whether the pain you've carried for so long actually has a purpose. And what you don't realize is that this moment right here may be the answer you've been praying for, because God often speaks in the moments we least expect, not always through loud miracles or dramatic events, but through quiet reminders that reach directly into the heart. And lately, your heart has been tired of pretending you're okay, tired of carrying responsibilities that feel heavier every day. Tired of fighting battles in silence while everyone around you assumes you're strong enough to handle it all. But strength does not mean you never feel weak, and faith does not mean you never feel afraid. Even the strongest people have moments where they feel lost, moments where they wonder if things will ever change, moments where they question if they are enough. And maybe that's where you are right now, standing between hope and doubt, trying to believe that something better is coming while another part of you feels afraid to hope again because disappointment has hurt you too many times before. But listen carefully. God did not bring you this far just to abandon you now. The fact that you are still here, still trying, still searching for meaning even after everything you've faced is proof that there is something inside you stronger than the pain you've endured. And God is about to awaken that strength in a way you've never experienced before. Because the season you are entering will require a different version of you, a stronger mindset, deeper faith, greater courage. And that is why everything lately has felt like pressure. Because pressure creates transformation. Pressure forces growth. Pressure reveals who you truly are. And although you may feel overwhelmed right now, one day you will realize that this difficult season was building the exact strength you needed for the blessing that is coming next. So stop believing the lie that nothing is happening in your life, because even in the waiting, even in the silence, God is working behind the scenes, arranging things you cannot yet see, aligning opportunities, shifting circumstances, preparing doors to open at the right time. And when that moment comes, it will all make sense. Every delay, every heartbreak, every setback, every lonely night. Because none of it was wasted. It was all leading you toward the person you are becoming. And that person is stronger, wiser, and closer to their purpose than ever before. There are people listening to this right now who have almost given up completely. People who smile during the day while secretly feeling empty inside. People who have prayed the same prayer over and over, wondering why nothing seems to change. And maybe you are one of them. Maybe you've reached the point where your faith feels tired, where believing feels harder than doubting, where hoping feels risky because you're afraid of getting hurt again. But God is saying to you right now, don't let temporary pain convince you that your future is hopeless. Because what you're experiencing right now is not the final chapter of your life, it is a transition. And transitions are uncomfortable because they require you to leave behind the familiar before you can step into something new. And most people never reach the life they were meant for because they stay attached to what feels safe, even when it's no longer healthy for them. Even when it's draining them emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. But you were not created to stay stuck in cycles that keep breaking you. You were created for growth, purpose, and transformation. And that means there are things you must release in order to move forward. Old fears, old habits, old relationships, old versions of yourself that no longer align with where God is taking you, because sometimes the reason you feel blocked is not because God is holding you back, but because you're still holding on to things that cannot go with you into your next season. And I know letting go is painful, especially when you've invested time, emotions, and energy into people or situations you thought would last forever. But not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Sometimes it is God making space for something greater, something healthier, something more aligned with your purpose. And one day, you will thank Him for the doors that closed because they protected you from paths that would have destroyed your peace. And right now, even if you cannot see the full picture, you need to trust that God knows what He's doing. Trust that every delay has meaning. Trust that every unanswered question will eventually make sense, because your life is moving in a direction you cannot fully understand yet. But that does not mean it is without purpose. It means you are being asked to walk by faith instead of fear, and that decision alone can change everything. God is saying to you right now, stop doubting the very thing I placed inside you, because for too long, you have been measuring your potential by your current circumstances instead of by the purpose I created you for. And that is why fear has kept you trapped in hesitation, overthinking every move, questioning every decision, waiting for the perfect moment. before taking action. But the perfect moment rarely arrives the way people expect it to, because growth begins the moment you decide to move forward, despite uncertainty, despite fear, despite not knowing exactly how everything will work out. And I know you've been waiting for clarity, waiting for a sign that guarantees success before you fully commit to the next step in your life. But faith does not work that way. Faith requires movement first, trust first, obedience first, and then the path begins to reveal itself one step at a time. And that's why this message matters so much right now, because you are standing in a moment where your next decision can shift the direction of your entire future. And deep inside, you already know there are changes you need to make, conversations you need to have, habits you need to break, risks you need to take, and dreams you need to stop delaying, because every day you spend doubting yourself is another day spent holding back the person you were meant to become. And the truth is, you are far more capable than you realize, far stronger than your fears have convinced you to believe. But your mind has been conditioned by disappointment, by failure, by rejection, and by moments that made you question your worth. And now every new opportunity feels dangerous because part of you expects things to go wrong again. But God is telling you not to let past pain control your future decisions, because the future He has planned for you is not defined by the mistakes you made yesterday. It is defined by the growth you choose today and right now. Even though you may feel uncertain, something inside you is beginning to wake up again. A part of you that still believes life can change. A part of you that refuses to completely give up no matter how hard things have become. And that spark of hope is important, because hope is often the first sign that transformation is beginning. And if you protect that hope instead of feeding your fear, if you continue moving forward instead of staying stuck in doubt, you will eventually reach the moment where everything begins to make sense, where the struggle turns into strength, where the waiting turns into opportunity, and where the pain you survived becomes proof that God was preparing you for something far greater than you could see at the time. So don't quit now. Don't turn back now, because this season of your life is not ending in defeat. It is leading you into transformation. And one day you will look back and realize that this was the moment you stopped surviving and started becoming the person you were always meant to be. There is a reason the enemy has been attacking your mind so heavily lately. A reason you felt overwhelmed by negative thoughts, fear, anxiety, and doubt. Because whenever God is preparing to elevate someone into a new season of life, the battle usually begins in the mind first. And if fear can control your thoughts, it can control your actions. If doubt can control your beliefs, it can stop you from stepping into the opportunities meant for you. And that's why you've felt so much mental pressure recently. Because deep down there is a part of you that knows change is coming. A part of you that senses your current season cannot last forever. But with that awareness also comes fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear that maybe you are not strong enough for what's ahead. And God is saying clearly right now, stop agreeing with the lies that are trying to keep you small, because the voice telling you that you're not enough is not the voice of your Creator. The voice telling you that nothing will ever change is not truth, and the voice telling you to give up is not from God, because God does not plant hopelessness inside people. He plants vision, purpose, and strength, even in difficult seasons. And yes, there will be moments where you feel weak, moments where you question everything, moments where the weight of life feels heavier than you expected, but weakness does not mean you are failing. Sometimes weakness is simply proof that you've been carrying too much alone. And maybe that's exactly what God is trying to teach you in this season, that you cannot continue trying to control everything by yourself, that you cannot keep pretending you're okay while your soul is exhausted, that you need to surrender the pressure you were never meant to carry. Because surrender is not defeat. Surrender is trust. It is the moment you stop relying only on your own understanding and begin trusting that God can see beyond what you currently understand. And I know that's difficult because people naturally want certainty, naturally want guarantees before they let go of control. But faith requires trust before the outcome becomes visible. And that is why so many people stay stuck, because they refuse to move until they can see the whole picture. While God is asking them to simply take the next step. And maybe that next step for you is forgiving yourself. Maybe it's letting go of a relationship that keeps hurting you. Maybe it's finally believing in your own worth. Maybe it's pursuing the dream you've been too afraid to start. Or maybe it's simply deciding that you will no longer let fear make your decisions for you. Whatever it is, understand this clearly. Your future begins changing the moment your mindset changes, because once you stop feeding fear and start feeding faith, everything else begins to shift. Opportunities appear, confidence grows, peace returns, and the life you once thought was impossible slowly starts becoming real. Not overnight, not instantly, but step by step, choice by choice, until one day you wake up and realize you are no longer the same person who started this journey. You are stronger now, wiser now, and finally becoming who God created you to be. God is saying to you right now that one of the biggest reasons you have felt stuck lately is because you've been looking at your life through the lens of your current problems instead of through the lens of your future purpose. And when people only focus on what is going wrong, they slowly lose the ability to recognize what is still possible. They become trapped in survival mode, waking up every day expecting disappointment, expecting failure, expecting nothing to change. And over time, that mindset becomes a prison stronger than any physical obstacle, because once a person stops believing their life can improve, they stop taking the actions that would actually create change. And maybe without realizing it, that has been happening to you. Maybe life has hurt you enough times that you started lowering your expectations, telling yourself not to hope too much because you were afraid of being disappointed again. But God is saying that your past pain was never meant to define your future identity. And just because certain things didn't work out before does not mean your future is destined to repeat the same story forever. Because you are growing, you are changing, and the person you are becoming is capable of things the old version of you could never handle. But in order to step into that future, you must stop speaking defeat over your own life. Stop calling yourself weak. Stop assuming nothing good can happen for you. Because your words shape your mindset, and your mindset shapes your actions, and your actions shape your future. Which means every day you wake up believing change is impossible, you unknowingly move further away from the very life you desire. And that is why faith matters so much, because faith keeps people moving forward even when results are not immediate. Faith allows people to endure difficult seasons without losing their sense of purpose. And right now, you are being challenged to strengthen that faith. Not fake positivity, not pretending life is perfect, but genuine trust that even in the middle of uncertainty, God is still guiding your path, still opening doors, still working behind the scenes in ways you cannot currently see. And one day you will realize that while you thought nothing was happening, God was actually preparing everything carefully, because some blessings require preparation before they arrive. And if they came too early, they would destroy you instead of helping you. So stop comparing your timeline to everyone else. Stop assuming you're behind in life, because your journey is unique, your purpose is unique, and what God is building in you right now cannot be rushed, no matter how impatient you feel. There are moments in life when God will intentionally remove distractions from your path, And during those moments, it can feel lonely, confusing, and even painful, because people you expected to stay begin drifting away. Certain opportunities disappear, familiar routines break apart, and suddenly the life you once relied on no longer feels stable. But what you must understand is that not every separation is punishment. Sometimes separation is preparation. Sometimes God removes what is distracting you from your purpose so you can finally focus on becoming who you were meant to be. And I know loneliness has been difficult for you. I know there have been nights where you felt misunderstood, unsupported, and emotionally exhausted from carrying everything alone. But isolation can also become a place of transformation if you allow it to. Because when external noise fades away, you finally begin hearing your own thoughts clearly. You finally begin recognizing what truly matters. And maybe that's exactly what this season has been trying to teach you. That your value cannot depend entirely on other people's presence, approval, or validation. Because if your identity is built only on who stays in your life, then every time someone leaves, your sense of worth falls apart too. But God is teaching you to build your identity on something stronger, something deeper, something permanent. And that process often requires temporary loneliness, so you can rediscover who you are without constant outside influence. And yes, it hurts when people leave, especially when you care deeply about them. But not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are only part of one chapter, not the entire story. And holding on to them beyond their season only delays your growth. And maybe right now you are grieving things that were never truly meant to last. Relationships, dreams, plans, expectations that no longer align with where your life is heading. But God is asking you to trust that what is leaving your life is creating space for something better, something healthier, something more aligned with your future. Because the next season of your life cannot fully begin while you are still clinging to what belongs in the past. And that is why this moment matters so much. Because you are being asked to release what no longer serves your growth and trust that God can replace it with something greater than you can currently imagine. God says the breakthrough you've been praying for is not as far away as you think, but before it arrives, there is one final lesson you must learn. And that lesson is trust during uncertainty. Because anyone can believe when life feels easy, when prayers are answered immediately, when doors open quickly and everything makes sense. But true faith is revealed when you continue believing even while nothing around you appears to be changing. And that is the stage many people quit during, because they mistake silence for absence. They assume that because they cannot see immediate results, nothing is happening. But some of God's greatest work happens invisibly at first, beneath the surface, beyond human understanding. Just like seeds grow underground long before anyone sees the plant above the soil. And right now, your life may feel like that hidden stage, where progress is difficult to measure and answers seem delayed. But that does not mean growth has stopped. It means preparation is still happening. And preparation often feels frustrating because it requires patience, discipline, and trust. Especially when your emotions are telling you to give up. And I know there are days where you feel emotionally drained, days where you question whether your efforts even matter anymore. But every step you take in faith is building something inside you that will eventually become visible in your external life too. Because internal transformation always comes before external breakthrough. And maybe God has been focusing more on strengthening your character than changing your circumstances right now, because character determines whether success becomes a blessing or a burden. And if you are not emotionally prepared for what you are praying for, it could destroy your peace instead of improving your life. And that is why some delays are actually mercy. Some unanswered prayers are protection. And some disappointments are redirection toward something greater than what you originally wanted. But you will only recognize that later if you continue trusting instead of quitting too early. Because many people abandon their journey right before things begin changing. They walk away in the middle of the process because they become tired of waiting. But don't let impatience steal the future God has been preparing for you. Because what is coming next in your life will make sense of everything you are struggling to understand right now. God is saying that the version of you standing here today is not the same person you were a year ago, even if you cannot fully see the growth yet, because pain changes people, challenges mature people, and difficult seasons reveal strengths people never knew they possessed. And although this past season has tested you in ways you never expected, it has also built resilience inside you that will become valuable in the future. Because one day you will face situations that would have destroyed the old version of you, but the new version of you will handle them with wisdom, patience, and confidence. And that is why you cannot hate every difficult season you go through. Because some seasons are classrooms, some seasons are training grounds, and some seasons are preparing you for responsibilities, blessings, and opportunities greater than anything you've experienced before. But preparation rarely feels comfortable while it's happening. And that's why so many people misunderstand their struggle. They think God is punishing them when in reality, He is strengthening them. They think their life is falling apart when actually it is being rebuilt into something stronger, healthier, and more aligned with their purpose. And maybe that's exactly what's happening in your life right now. Maybe the confusion you feel is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a transformation you cannot fully understand yet. And if you could see the person you are slowly becoming through all of this, you would realize that your pain has not been meaningless. Because every challenge has taught you something valuable. Every heartbreak has made you wiser. Every disappointment has revealed what truly matters, and every setback has forced you to grow beyond your comfort zone. And growth is painful precisely because it requires leaving behind old versions of yourself that no longer fit the future you are stepping into. But do not fear that process, because God would never call you toward growth without also giving you the strength to survive it. And yes, there will still be moments where you feel uncertain, moments where fear tries to return, moments where you wonder if you're truly ready for the next chapter of your life. But readiness is not the absence of fear. Readiness is choosing to move forward despite fear. And every time you do that, your confidence grows stronger, your faith deepens, and your future begins opening in ways you never thought possible. So now, after hearing all of this, the question becomes simple. What are you going to do next? Because signs only matter when people respond to them. And this message will mean nothing if you continue returning to the same mindset, the same fear, the same habits that have kept you stuck for so long. Because change begins with decisions, not wishes. And God is calling you right now to make a decision about the direction of your life, a decision to stop settling for survival when you were created for purpose, a decision to stop letting fear speak louder than faith, a decision to stop delaying the growth that you already know needs to happen, because deep down you already know there are things you need to release, actions you need to take, and truths you need to finally accept about yourself. And one of those truths is this: your life still has meaning, no matter how discouraged you have become. No matter how many mistakes you've made, no matter how many times things have not gone according to plan, your story is still unfolding, your purpose still exists, and your future is still being shaped by the choices you make starting today. And maybe you cannot control everything happening around you right now, but you can control whether you continue moving forward or remain trapped in fear. You can control whether you continue feeding doubt or start feeding faith. You can control whether you allow your past to define you or allow your future to inspire you. And those choices matter more than you realize, because small decisions repeated consistently eventually shape entire lives. And perhaps that is why this message found you today, not just to comfort you temporarily, but to wake something up inside you, to remind you that you are capable of more than your fear has allowed you to believe, and that the season ahead of you can become completely different from the season behind you if you are willing to trust God enough to grow. Because growth is the bridge between who you are now and who you are meant to become. And although the journey ahead may still contain uncertainty, challenges, and moments of doubt, you do not have to face them alone, because God has been walking beside you this entire time, even in moments where you thought He was silent, even in moments where you felt abandoned. And one day you will look back at this exact season and realize that this was not the end of your story at all. This was the beginning of your transformation, the moment where everything slowly started changing because you finally chose faith over fear, purpose over comfort, and growth over staying stuck forever.